This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Scott Howell.
Hello, good neighbors, and welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast, brought to you by the Friends and Neighbors Group of the Greater Chattanooga region. Again, my name is Scott Howell, and I'm your host for today. A lot of people ask, what is the purpose of the Good Neighbor Podcast? Well, we desire to bring an awareness to the residents living in our communities regarding the locally owned and operated businesses here in the Greater Chattanooga region. All the way from Cleveland to Dalton and Jasper to Benton is what I always like to say. Small local businesses are the backbone of our communities, and they need our support. And every local business has a story to tell, and we desire to help them shout it from the rooftops. And joining me today is our good neighbor, Dr. Aileen Litwin at Happy Healthy Pediatrics. Thank you for being our special guest today, Dr. Aileen.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. We are so looking forward to this. I shared with Dr. Aileen before we started recording about, we always accept nominations from businesses that we record a podcast with. And usually, I'll get 2 or 3, maybe sometimes 3 for a particular business, but I don't think I've ever got 6 before. And Dr. Aileen has broken the record. The number of people that have nominated her for a podcast.
Well, that just goes to show how generous our small business community is in our area, that we are always willing to help each other and raise each other up.
That is a good point. That is a really good point. It also goes to show that you have made a lot of people happy, and they want to mention your name to other people, and that's always a good thing too. But you're right. I do love good networking. So, but before we dive into learning about your practice, is there anything you'd like to share with us regarding yourself and your family?
Well, I think it's good for people to know that as a pediatrician, I am a mom myself. I have 3 boys ranging from a 14-year-old to a 5 and an almost 3-year-old. And my hometown is Cookeville, Tennessee, so about an hour and a half away from us. And I went to Tennessee Tech, graduated with my biochemistry degree, and then my medical school also in state. I went to LMU DCOM, so I am a DO, again, with that holistic picture in mind when it comes to how I take care of my families.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm learning to appreciate holistic more and more.
Yes.
The older I get. So I definitely appreciate that. And you're talking about living in Cookeville and being raised in Cookeville. Yeah, I love Cookeville. I just think it's an awesome town. And it's not as large as Chattanooga, obviously, but it is just the best place. I love going to Cookeville.
It has grown so much. So we were actually a military family, Navy branch, for the last 7 years. My total service time was 11 years with med school included. But when we came home to settle in Chattanooga and we would go and visit my family in Cookeville, my husband and I, every time we would turn a corner, we would notice 2 or 3 or more new businesses that were not there before, 10 years, 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. My first acquaintance with Cookeville was probably back in the I would say in the 90s, and I became acquainted with Cookeville. And you're right, from then till now, it's just like it's bloomed, but rightfully so. It's a beautiful place. Now, not hardly as beautiful in my eyes as Chattanooga, but and the whole Chattanooga region. We just have so much to offer in this area. But it is a wonderful, wonderful place at Cookeville, Tennessee. It's good family place. Well, let's dive into talking about Happy Healthy Pediatrics and tell us about your philosophy of the way you treat your patients and everything about it.
Yeah, so I opened up Happy Healthy Pediatrics August of 2023, so under a year old practice. And the reason why I did it was because I really wanted to take care of kids and their families my own way. And I will tell you, the insurance-based model that we have right now does put some barriers and challenges, especially when it comes to primary care. And for me, the biggest hurdles that I wanted to overcome were the time that I needed to spend with families. And if anyone has kids and you take them to a well visit, it can pretty much be an entire half day where you drive there, you may have to wait in the waiting room for an hour or longer sometimes, depending on the workday. And then you maybe get to spend, if you're lucky, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. And sometimes it's even shorter than that. Well, for me, my goal is to really get to know my families and educate them. And you just need time to do that. So I decided to not take insurance and build a practice that if I was the parent, I would have the opportunity to, tell my pediatrician everything there was to know about my kid and then get recommendations and discuss those recommendations. And so all of my visits are an hour long and it's just me the whole time. And so it's really funny. The kids are actually the ones that pick up on it, and they will actually, because kids are honest, and they'll say, "You're just gonna stay in this room the whole time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, it's just me and you and your mom and dad, and we're just getting to know you and trying to make you as healthy and happy as you can be." So it's been really fun.
Yeah, well, that is quite a different model
Yes.
than most of us are used to. That's for sure.
Yes.
I don't have any children of my own, but I know even my own self. Now, I have to admit, the family practice doctor that I go to now is not that way. But I have sat in waiting rooms for long periods of time before,
Yeah.
before getting asked back. So yeah, it's frustrating sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when you don't know how to manage your schedule for the rest of the day because you don't know how long you're going to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that I offer, so I am triple board certified. So
Okay.
besides general pediatrics, I have lifestyle medicine and obesity medicine certifications. So basically, what I do with that knowledge is really focus on preventive care. And I think, my practice, when I tell people about it, what gets them so excited is I think it really speaks to people's inner child because what I focus on is, man, do you know so many things get set up for you that affect you as an adult when you're a child? As soon as you're born, self-regulation, how much security you get, how the world is presented to you and how people interact with you. So a lot of what I do is actually basically coaching the caregivers, the moms and dads, to be the best person they can be so that they're modeling, good behaviors, whether it comes to how they eat, how they move their bodies. Are they showing good sleep habits? Are they showing good resiliency skills, communication skills? Because children, right, we know this, they're sponges, they soak things up. And
Oh yeah.
sometimes we don't see the after effects until way later. And we can see this now in our society, increasing rates of things like anxiety, depression, and people trying to find their purpose, all the big life things. Well, all
Yeah.
that stuff really starts even as soon as babies are born. So I love that as a pediatrician. I get to encourage and educate caregivers to be like, hey, what you can do to raise the best human beings ever is be your best self. And it's so refreshing to see the moms and dads really like rise up to that kind of challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you said that, I was thinking, are most parents open to that type of advice? And
Yeah. So right, that's the art of medicine. So you can probably tell Scott that I'm super passionate about this.
I
So I think
can, yeah,
it's all in how you frame it. So, it's not about shaming or guilting. It's really finding what is going to motivate a family to make positive changes. And again, that's the lifestyle medicine interventions that we talk about is that's why you have to spend that time to get to know a family so you can figure out how to best motivate them and encourage them to make good choices for themselves and their families.
Dr. Aileen, how did you decide? What was your journey in deciding how to become a
Yeah.
pediatrician?
Yeah. So, well, pediatrics, I love kids. I think they're so honest and they're so resilient. When you see a child fall down, scrape their knee or whatever, they don't wallow. They're like, "Oh, when can I start playing again?" And I
Yeah.
think it's just such a good life philosophy to have. So, I actually learn a lot from kids, from babies all the way up to, adulthood just because they have such a thriving oriented spirit. And I think all of us can learn from kids no matter what age they are. But I wanted to be able to learn and know enough about kids to help them whenever they needed help. So I tell patients this because I get calls and they ask me like, are you like a real pediatrician? I'm like, yeah, I can still send referrals, send over prescriptions, all that stuff, write letters, whatever you need me to do. But really it's that, like the modern struggles that we deal with, like relational health, first world problem health things like cardiovascular disease, hypertension, all that stuff. That's kind of what I'm working with, is supporting our population and what they need.
On your journey to become triple board certified, did you have all of this in mind? Like you wanted all these pieces of puzzle to be a better pediatrician, or did this just kind of all come together in the end?
That's a great question. So the answer is probably it's the same with a lot of people, and it was COVID. And I had a little bit more time to kind of just, sit in one area and like ponder. And I said, I don't like to be bored apparently. So I signed up for some board exams over the course of the pandemic, and then having our last baby and stuff like that. So, but it really I guess it led to, me deciding I wanted to be the kind of pediatrician that was able to spend time with her patients and, give them the support that they needed. So besides the hour visits, another cool thing that I provide for my families is I create a wellness plan after every visit. So any articles, product recommendations, any community partners that we've talked about in the appointment, I organize it all for them. So when you go to the doctor, sometimes they hand us, 20 sheets of paper. All of it probably goes in the garbage. You know what I mean? But so I email this to them. So any resources they can always revisit later and purchase or, buy whatever. So that's really nice. And then I also follow up with them virtually. So like a telehealth visit type of model, just to check in to see if they have any questions or concerns with that wellness plan that we created from their visit.
Okay. Well, wow, you're very complete, very efficient and complete. That's awesome. I know you. No wonder you're getting so many nominations from folks. I mean, everybody spoke so highly of you. What types of myths or misconceptions maybe do you hear when people are coming? And I'm just going to leave that broadly open for you to talk about. What do you hear?
So I think the biggest challenge that I have when it comes to explaining why someone would want to come see me versus going to a traditional practice model, I would say that, the investment is what you have to think about. So how much do people pay into an insurance plan and getting to see their physician, their child's physician for that 10 or 15 minutes, right? And you're paying for this all year. Maybe you have like one wellness visit, one well visit, but like how much is actually getting done that's specifically personalized for your child? So when people hear that and then they experience what a visit is actually like with me, then they get it. So it's been surprising in a good way to just see, well, first off, I check in with moms and dads. So I ask them like, hey, how are you doing? How are you managing your stress? Are there any big life changes going on? And just the fact that I'm even asking them how they are, they know that it's a totally different approach to how to take care of a child optimally, right? So I think once they hear that it's an investment long term and that, everyone is taken care of and addressed in a visit, then they kind of see the value in it. But that's probably the biggest thing is like, why would I, pay this out of insurance, out of pocket price for this visit with you?
Okay. Well, I'm glad you explained all that, because when you think about it in relation to money all year long, and not only that, it's not just a financial key. What I hear is they're getting the most, how do I word that? They're getting the most wellness out of the visit with you too.
Yeah,
I mean, because when they come, they're not just getting that few minutes. They're getting somebody who actually really takes the time to deep dive instead of surface. And no disrespect to any other doctors. If you're in that system, you're probably just stuck and you have to do what you have to do. But you put yourself in a position where you don't have to conform to those standards. You can put you're conforming into the family. You said you asked the family how they are doing it. Are you talking about during the visit?
I do, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So, well, right, to get to know a child, you have to know all of the influences that are within their life, and so, right, that includes their mom and dad. So,
yeah,
I had a newborn, for example, and the dad was having a really hard time adjusting his sleep schedule, and I could tell that his energy level was a little bit low compared to the newborn visit at the 2-week-old visit. I said, "Hey, Dad, what's going on?" And he looked at me, and I said, "Are you sleeping okay?" And he said, "No, Dr. Litwin, I'm not sleeping okay." So, so just checking in and saying, "Hey, look, like, what's going on? What is your sleep schedule? Let's talk about it." We were able to come up with a better plan for them. And the next time I saw them at the 2-month visit, he was a completely different person. And I tell people, as a general pediatrician, normally, because I've been in that system before, I I don't know, hopefully I would have noticed, but even if I did notice, what I have kind of started on that topic was to be like, "Oh, I don't have like 10 minutes to sit here and talk about dad's like sleep schedule.
right.
Maybe he can just figure it out on his own." So it's nice. And that's what I tell families, like, not, I don't trash talk other pediatricians, other family practice, anyone else who takes
Right,
care of
yeah.
kids. They are in that model, and it's the way it has to be for a lot of people. But for families who are looking for something a little bit different, it's nice to be an option for
Yeah.
families in the community.
So do a lot of dads come to the appointment with the mom? Do both parents come?
They actually do. I find that the dads are very well, they usually at least come for the first couple of ones, and then they're like,
Okay.
"Okay, Dr. Litwin's legit." And then they leave the mom to the rest of it. But some dads come to every visit, and
Wow.
I don't know if part of it is because I do check in with them and see how work is going, how is it balancing a new baby, and stuff like that. So I usually get both parents come, which is really nice. I love to
Yeah,
hear from both of them. And yeah, I always ask if it's one parent only. I say, "Well, did dad or mom have any questions?" Just making sure that,
yeah.
all their questions are answered too.
So would you say you check in with them? Do you mean even outside of the visit, you check in with them?
Well, if it's something that was pertinent to the visit, like if they were
Okay,
having, like job stresses, that would probably be part of my virtual follow-up. Be like, "Oh,
okay.
any updates on, what was going on at work, or, this the sister brother tantrums that were, affecting how you were taking care of your new baby." So I usually check in that way.
Well, talk about your process there, because now you mentioned virtual follow-up. So
Yeah.
talk about the process when somebody comes in and for a doctor's visit. What does the rest of it look like from there on?
So I do follow, like for wellness visits, I do follow the recommendations by the American Academy of Pediatrics. So I'm still very much evidence based. And this is what I tell
Okay,
families, like, those checklists are great for milestones, but right, it should be like a conversation starter, not like a diagnosis. So
okay.
I still make those recommendations. And then afterwards, when I do those follow-ups, parents can schedule appointments, as they see, because I don't have a subscription model. So it's just a per visit type of practice.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. And that you meant that when we spoke on the phone, we had the opportunity to speak on the phone one day, and in that conversation, you told me something that really amazed me, and I just want to kind of open the door to let you talk about it. So you also take care of moms that are expecting babies, right?
Yes, so I offer prenatal visits. Okay, so why this is so special to me, obviously I'm a mom as well, but so much research is being done and has come out with regards to what mom's physical and mental health, how that can influence her baby as it's developing in the womb. And then when they're born, it can lead to, predispositions to certain behaviors, to certain disease processes. So, as a pediatrician, I am very invested in the community, the hospital system, the medical community, supporting moms and making sure that she has all of the resources that she needs to have, be healthy for herself, but obviously be healthy for her baby.
Didn't you tell me that you also make special visits for?
Oh, my home visits, yeah.
Yes, I was hoping you. I didn't want to
Those,
say that, but I wanted
yes.
you to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I offer home visits. So the way my practice is set up right now, my office visits are Mondays and Tuesdays, and then Wednesday to Friday, families can schedule home visits, and that's within the Chattanooga area. I had to kind of narrow it down because Chattanooga,
Sure,
you can drive for 40 minutes getting from one side of Chattanooga to another, depending on
sure.
traffic. But
Yeah.
yeah, I thought those visits would all be postpartum moms, but I was very surprised. I've had families schedule home visits to talk about things like constipation, sleep, behavior. So it really is, whatever the family prefers. But yes, I will see newborn babies, just specific concerns that parents have. And it's really related to, comfort schedules, if, Wednesdays or Fridays works better for them. And also too, a lot of parents want me to see their child in their natural environment where they're most comfortable. And it's so funny. The kids are like, who is this lady bringing like all of her bags in here? But no, I do find that the kids are more relaxed because they can just, roll around on the floor. They can bring their toys out and play and all that stuff during the visit.
Well, being a mom, I want to ask you something kind of offbeat a little bit. So what does Dr. Litwin and her children and husband, what do y'all do for fun when you're not working?
Oh my gosh. So I'm I'm one of those moms. I feel like I use my children as an excuse to like do all the kid fun stuff, but I'm like, it's really for my children, but I'm also having a good time. So I am definitely a kid at heart. I tell people all the time, I have the sense of humor of like a 5-year-old. So I will laugh at literally everything. But no, my kids are definitely, the lights of my life and a huge reason why I opened my practice. So I tell people, the way I have built this, I am able to be a great pediatrician and also a great wife and mom. So it's been truly a blessing to get to help families the way I want to and still create space to, be there for my kids and see them grow up. So that was definitely something that I was already starting to experience because, I graduated in 2019 and I had 2 years as a general officer in the Navy, but, that grind and feeling like, oh, I just have to like sacrifice so much and of my family for my job, that just, I needed to step back and say, how can I be a doctor, but still be present for my family? So
Absolutely.
the last few months have been incredible.
Yeah, I know your kids probably don't know. They won't know how to appreciate that till they're grown, but they will appreciate that
When they
one
have
day.
their own kids, right? I do that wagging my hair. It's like, when you have children, you'll understand this.
Yeah, my mother used to say,
Yeah.
she called it the mother's curse. She's, I hope your kids grow up to be just like you.
Oh, yes. These
Uh,
teenage years, oh my goodness. No, it's not a joke when they say buckle in because it's an adventure.
well, do you have an age range on the pediatrics that you treat on the
Yeah.
children?
So I do see the moms prenatally if they need any advice on taking care of newborns. But my range for pediatrics is 0 to 21, which a lot of
Oh,
people are
wow.
surprised by that. Yeah. So generally, what I like to do is start talking to families if I've been seeing them a long time about transitioning to like an adult medicine doctor, even as early as like 14 years old. But I will see anybody from 0 to 21.
21. Wow. Okay. I had a pediatrician growing up, but they cut me off at 18. So
Well, I know some like 30-plus-year-old people that still see their pediatrician. And I was like, that's probably time to step away from that practice.
yeah, they should get tired of looking at the giraffes on the walls by then, right? All the zoo animals.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, your practice is very unique in it of itself. And a lot of people, like you say, might be a little bit taken back at first, but, oh no, she don't take insurance. But, I just like to encourage our listeners, take a moment and listen to what Dr. Aileen said. If this type of practice that you feel like is for you, don't just let the fact that you don't take insurance turn you away. Think about the cost incurred. Think about the narrow amounts of time that your child's actually being seen. And then, the virtual visits, all the things that she's offering, just think about it all even before you totally just write it off because there's the insurance isn't involved. I'm sure you said that's probably one of the biggest things you hear. So
Yeah,
it's
well,
going to help you dispel that. Yeah.
it was definitely something that I was nervous about. And my husband, because he loves me so much, he was also very worried about it. But, in Chattanooga, word of mouth is the best advertisement. And so once I started seeing consistently more patients, more families, I think they just told their friend groups and said, oh, she's normal. Like she does a good job. This is how she's different. And then I've been getting calls and emails, again, just very blessed that people are willing to share what I'm doing.
That's great. I'm so glad. 'Cause, we need to have great practitioners in the community. Not to say that there's not others. I know there
Oh,
are,
yeah.
but
So
we need
many.
to have people who can be focused on. The insurance is just taking over, and it shouldn't. But when an insurance company can tell me, how my treatment should go, and they're not doctors. My doctor's arguing with the insurance company. The insurance company wins. That makes me nervous. So I appreciate people like you who are able to step outside the system and offer an alternative. But if there was one thing outside, if there was just one thing, you may have already stated it, but I just always like to ask this question. One thing that you wish that our listeners knew about Dr. Aileen and Happy Healthy Pediatrics, but they might not know unless you told them. You'd like to shout it from the rooftop today. What would it be?
I would say that my philosophy as a pediatrician is truly to partner with families. I want to meet families where they're at and help them come up with a plan to get them where they want to go. That's always been my philosophy. That came from residency. I came from a very nurturing program, and that was something that was instilled in me, is that everyone is on a different journey, and you cannot force your own personal beliefs on stuff. You have to meet people where they're at and guide and support them with your expertise and knowledge the best you can.
Okay, well, that's well said. Well put. I want to give you just a moment, Dr. Aileen, before we end the podcast, to kind of give your information, whether online or offline, how can people reach out to you, find out more about you?
Thank you. Well, thank you, Scott, again for this opportunity. This is a wonderful podcast. Again, just showing how incredible our community is when it comes to supporting each other. But the best way to learn about me and my practice and contact me with any other questions is to go on my website, which is www.happyhealthypediatrics.com.
All right. There you go. Just reach out to her by that website. Check out what she has to offer your family. Listen to this podcast 2 or 3 times if you need to grasp it all. I think this has been wonderful today. Just wonderful, good information. And Dr. Aileen, in response to what you said, thank you for being here with us, because it's been a blessing and been very informational. And to all the good neighbors of the greater Chattanooga area, after meeting Dr. Aileen and learning more about Happy Healthy Pediatrics, I know that she hopes you'll take a moment to consider all that she has to offer. And remember your children, remember their care, remember the time that is able to be spent on your child, talking about your family, not just the child, him or herself, but also the family, taking all the things into account that she can do to possibly help y'all. And just remember that. Before ending this episode, I'd like to thank you all, the listeners, for taking the time out of your busy day to visit with us at the Good Neighbor Podcast. Always remember to support the locally owned and operated businesses in the greater Chattanooga area, from Cleveland to Dalton, from Jasper to Benton, and everybody in between. Thank you for being with us today. This is Scott Howell, the Friends and Neighbors Group. Everyone go out and make this a remarkable day.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpcleveland.com. That's gnpcleveland.com, or call 423-380-1984.